So on the last video, I was discussing the 4 phases of the menstrual cycle on a very basic level. I told you on the last video that knowing yourself is the key to you taking your power back. And if you allow things outside of you to control you, you'll never have any power. You'll never be able to be in control of your circumstances. You won't really be in the mindset of the victor versus the mindset of the victim. My biggest goal here is to help women and young girls grab a hold of the essence of who they truly are, the power, the value, the worth, and everything along with that at a young age, at this time now, so that they don't have to spend a lifetime trying to figure out who they are and what they're capable of. We all have different things that we have to learn and grow from, but I think this is a basic thing that we need to know before any of that. We need to understand the inner workings of our body just on a basic level. And if you don't know that, you're gonna learn it today. Okay, so we're gonna be talking about how to track your menstrual period, how to predict when your period can come. I'm gonna help you be able to calculate it without using an app to tell you. I am not against technology. Okay, I wanna make that clear. I am not against technology. I think technology is, I think it's amazing, I'm not gonna lie. However, I feel like we as a society of humans, okay, we have become way too dependent on the technology. You have your phone telling you when to wake up, when to go to sleep, when it's somebody's birthday. Yeah, it's gotten out of hand. All these things, you have technology to depend on to do these things for you, and you're not utilizing your own brain capacity to know how, when, where, and why in your own life. And I feel like that's very, 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 very scary. But we're gonna figure out how to start back using our own brain capacity, okay? And we're gonna utilize the things that we've been given through nature. I just wanna give y'all a little backstory before I get into it. I am super passionate about the womb, the uterus, children, being a woman. I'm like super, super passionate about that. I started my period when I was 11 years old, and from that point on, I have known when my periods were gonna come because my mom taught me that. My mom pulled out a calendar the day that I started my period. I remember this day like it was yesterday. She pulled out a calendar and she said, look, write down that you started your period today. She told me the day, to put the start date, to put the end date, but she did not tell me how to calculate my average cycle length. So remember when I said that the menstrual cycle itself has 4 phases, right? That is the whole menstrual cycle. Your menstrual cycle should last about at least 28 to 35 days on average for a woman. It is a monthly cycle that encompasses 4 phases. Every new period is the beginning of a new cycle. With understanding that, there is days in between each period that makes up the cycle. So in order for you to know your average cycle length, you would need to calculate those days in between from the first start of one period to the start of a new period for a range of at least 3 months. You can go longer than this to get an average if you want, but I say if you get 3 periods that are consistent, 3 periods where you are able to track the length of the cycle of each one, you can know just about when the next one's gonna come. If you have regular cycles, this is for women who are not battling PCOS, endometriosis, severe hormonal imbalances, fibroids, etc., etc. If you are a woman that is battling these things, I would suggest that you get some type of help so that you can regulate your cycle again. This is super, super key. People really need to get serious about that. It's really difficult to do a video like this, to be honest. I'm just telling y'all how to calculate your periods, but so many women are not self-aware that it's a little difficult to tell you that you can go here and you learn the cycle day lengths, but cycle days switch so much because the things that you're feeding your children, the things that you're eating, the stressors that we have on a day-to-day basis, like a lot of people are just not well. So we're gonna get there. I'm gonna get there. We're gonna get there. We're gonna talk about it. I just want to show you guys exactly how to do that, and we're gonna do that now. Okay, so here we are now. I have a calendar here. This is just to give you guys an example. This is how you can, if you have daughters, you can coach them on how to track their periods with a calendar instead of relying on apps. Some of these apps are becoming expensive. They're starting to charge for basic data. Y'all, it's time to start really relying on your own mind. This was actually an example from 2022. I never erased it because I don't use this, but I knew I had it, so I'm like, this is a good thing to use for a video. As you can see, this was the period start date. I put 24 here, but this is actually 2022. The start of the period was in May. So what I was May 17th. This was the start date. So I'm gonna put that in pink here. That was my start date. This was day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, and it ended on day 5. You always start from the day your period started and you end from the day your period ends. If you don't see blood anymore, it's over. Mark it down. Sometimes you don't see blood no more and then come back. That's something else. We can talk about that in another video. So I marked the end, the start, and the end for my own personal thing. That's how I used to do it. This is how my mom taught me to do it. So you mark it from the start and end, whether it ends here, it ends here, it ends on day 3, day 5, day 7, it doesn't matter. You mark the start and the end. Now, the days in between this, from day 1, right? You got day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5. This is day 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then so on and so forth. 26, 27, 28. Now, this is actually wrong. Let me erase this. Over the years of me doing this, it's been really trial and error. And this is not supposed to be expected. It said expected period on there the last time when I was playing around with it. But as I've gotten older and I have done this a million times, I have learned that this is actually the start date. So we're not expecting our period this day. Let me erase that. This is day 28. You may get your period this day. And if you do get your period this day, then this means that this cycle was 27 days. This is day 29, expected period. You're gonna always count from the start date of your period as day 1. And you're gonna count 28 days from day 1. The 28th day should be the end of the cycle. The next day should be the day that you start your period. I hope that makes sense, because for a while I didn't know that. Even though my mom taught me this like this, I didn't know that part. I learned that through my own trial and errors. To start your period, you need to count day 1 of the day that you start your period is day 1. And then you count day 2, day 3, from days leading all the way up, and you count 28 days. Now, a lot of people don't go 28 days. The average cycle length is supposed to be 28 to 35 days. And it has a lot to do with people being off balance with nature, people not eating correctly for their body type, people being under chronic stress, people having aged uteruses because their parents had aged body parts when they gave birth to them or when they conceived them. It's so much that goes along with the anatomy of a body. I'm not gonna get into that on this video, but there's so many factors that go into why a woman's period is not exactly 28 days. But typically the cycle should average out to 28, in between 28 to 35 days. The way that you find out what your average cycle day length is by continuously doing what I just did here for at least 3 months to get an average. Let's say that May was 28 days. June equals 31 days. And July was 29 days. You would add up May, June, and July, and you would divide them by 3. So whatever number you come up with, you will divide it by 3. You would add up all those numbers, 17, 18, 18, 8. Is that 88? Let me make sure, because, you know, I'm a little slow sometimes. Okay, 28. That gives you 88 days. Of course, it would be a repeating number. Anyway, that gives you 88 days for the 3 cycles that you had. Now we're gonna divide 88 by 3. This would give you an average cycle length of 29.3 days. That means people, that means that you have a 29-day period. The normal cycle, they say, this is your doctors and stuff like that, say that the average cycle is 28 to 35 days. So you're always in the normal range of a cycle if your cycles average from 28 to 35 days. So although these months you had a little slight imbalance or it's off a little bit because of various reasons, you know, things do happen. We are solarly influenced as well. We're lunarly influenced. Nature influences us as well. So a lot of times you may think you're late or you're off, but your period is just syncing to the new moon or the full moon. I could probably talk about that a little later as well. So sometimes you're not off, and this is why it can range a little bit, just depending on the cycles of the moon and things like that, or the things that you ate this month. You will get an average of 29 days. That would mean that if your cycles are 29 days, this would change. Instead of your expected period being on the 14th of June, because this is the 17th of May, instead of your periods being on the 14th of June, your period would be should be starting on the 15th of June. Because your cycles go 29 days. The next day should be expected period. If your cycle is 29.3 days, like I said with this example, you will go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. days until you reach 29 days on the calendar. The 29th day is not the day that you start your period. It's the 30th day that will be the day that you start your period, but it would technically be day 1 of your cycle. So you don't want to put 30 days. You want to put 29 days. So that's it. You want to get your average cycle in. Don't go based off of what someone tells you as far as like, oh, like every woman should be 30 days. So just count 30 days. When I was a child, and I told y'all my mom taught me this, my mom told me to count 30 days. I never had a cycle before. So she just was like, just do 30 days. So that's what I did. I did 30 days and my cycle came around that time. If you've never tracked your cycle before and you don't have any data from an app or anything like that, you just been winging it all this time, baby, you could just take it for a week. So do 28 days, and from that 28th day, that's the week that your period should be starting. All of this would be a suspected period. You wait for the day that your period comes and it shows you, hello, I'm here. Okay, and then you write period starting. So then you would do, this is the expected period. Let's say this was the start. You put start. Young ladies can put flowers, you can put smiley faces, whatever, to let you know that this was the day that your period started and this is how many days it went. Okay, this is just strictly tracking your period, and you would do that for 3 months until you can get 3 consecutive periods. You track 3 of them, get a number of days for how long that cycle went. You will add those 3 numbers up and you will divide them by 3. That should give you your average cycle length. So this can help you properly predict when the next period is going to come. If you've never done it before, you don't have no previous data, then you would just do, I started this day, and you would just keep marking the days. The 28th day, that week, at some point in that week, you should start your period. When you start your period in that week, you then mark the day. And once you mark the day, you will have the average cycle length. So let's say, like I said, we started here. Instead of the expected period, we started here. That means that this cycle was 30 days. So we started day 31, which would be day 1 of the new cycle. This is 30 days. I hope this makes sense. And if y'all need me to explain it more, I will explain it more. I'm gonna reiterate it again for the 100th time, and I don't care. Grab your daughters, let them listen to what I am about to say. You will go on the calendar. If you've never tracked your own period before and don't have any data on any apps or anywhere, this is your first time going at it. You've never done it before. Write the first day of the period down. The day that you first seen blood. Write it down. Put it on a calendar. You could put a flower, you could put a smiley face, you could write a circle, you could just say start like I did. Put it on there. day 1 is that day. From then on, you count up to 28 days, up to the 28th day. So the 28th day is going to depict potentially when your period may come. So from day 28 to day 35, which would be a week, starting on the 28th day, that week is the week that your period should be coming. At some point during that week, your period is gonna come. When it comes, you then need to write down, again, start day 1. And then you go back and you see what number the day before fell on. If it was 30, like here, that means that that cycle was 30 days. And you do this again for another month. Go down to the 28th day. You know, in that week, your period should start. When your period starts, you write down period started, then look to the day previous to see what number you're on. If it says 30 again, you got another 30-day cycle, do it all over again. And if you hit another 30 days, your periods are 30 days. That is your cycle run right now. It is on a 30-day cycle. I think this is very helpful for young girls because they're able to prepare themselves for the oncoming of their period. So they're able to pack pads in their backpacks for school, able to pack extra underwear because, you know, sometimes things get a little messed up, you know? They're able to understand themselves, like, okay, my period's gonna start this week, I'm a little emotional. And then not only that, they're able to pick up on themselves. So I know my period's coming this week, so I'm paying attention to myself. What do I like around this time? What don't I like around this time? How do I feel around this time? Do I feel tired? Do I have a headache? Do I feel sick? Do I have an attitude? You know what I'm saying? Like, you kind of understand your cycle and what takes place during your cycle. I hope this helps somebody. If you know anybody that has daughters, if you know anyone who is still trying to figure themselves out, I don't care about what age you are. This is a judgment-free zone. I'm not shaming nobody. Just have an open mind and listen so that you can understand something if you didn't know something, okay? And you can possibly teach the young girls in the community because they need to know about themselves and how they operate.